Well, what's happening, Jets fans? This is GreenBean, and welcome to yet another late night vlog. I don't usually do more than one of these a week, but stuff is going on. It might even be a daily thing with all the rumors coming and going. You just never know, and you got to talk about it. So here we are again. I want to thank you for stopping by. As you know, I thoroughly enjoy talking with you guys about all subjects that have to do with our New York Jets, and this one is pretty interesting. We're going to point out a few intricate details that I'd like you to pay attention to before you attach any emotions to this stuff. But we're also going to look at how it could impact the New York Jets and also what might be some motivations for a rumor like this even existing in the first place. But before we do, I want to remind you how you can support the channel. As you know, I'm driving cross country trying to take my kids on every roller coaster in the country, and I could use some support to be able to keep this thing going. And I'm always so grateful and honored when you guys consider doing such things. And the best way to do that is to sign up for my Patreon. There are numerous tiers with numerous options for bonus content, private streams, all kinds of cool stuff. Classic game watch parties. We already watched the Midnight Miracle together. And the end of February, we're going to watch the home playoff game against the Jaguars back in 1998, where Keyshawn Johnson got not only 2 touchdowns, but an interception. How does that happen? We'll relive all that fun stuff together on my Patreon. The link is right in the top of the description of this video, and I greatly appreciate it, as I'm sure you can understand. Another way that you can support the channel is real simple. You can do it right now in just about 2.5 seconds. Click that thumbs up button and then go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, guys, we got to talk about this stuff, but we're going to put a word out there first before we get too deep into it. It's a rumor. We have to know that it's a rumor. As you guys probably know by now, I did make an off-season key on how to navigate through all these rumors and everything. I'll post that video right here. There's a link to it. And if you haven't watched it, go ahead and take a little gander. You'll gain a greater understanding of what you really should buy into and what you shouldn't buy into. But this one is interesting. It comes from Daniel Jeremiah. And let me read you the tweet, and then we'll dig in from there. Daniel Jeremiah tweets, New York Jets and New York Giants could be pivotal players in trade market. If you want to trade for a vet quarterback, Watson, Wilson, or Rodgers, they could be the middleman and supply picks for proven players. New York Jets, New York Giants send picks to Team X. Team X sends a proven player to the Jets, and Team X sends picks for a quarterback. So it's a little muddy, but we'll try to break it down and see if we can understand. We'll use a couple examples. Now, one example is that the Jets have been tied to a couple of wide receivers out there, saying that the Jets might be willing to use one of their draft picks this year to acquire a vet wide receiver. So let's go ahead and use that example to try to make sense of this. So let's say that the Denver Broncos want to trade for Russell Wilson. Okay, but they don't have enough draft capital. Seattle wants 2 first-round picks, and they don't have the draft capital to get it done. So what they do is they're willing to send us a player or a player in picks or whatever to get our first-round pick so they can package those 2 picks and send them to the Seahawks and grab Russell Wilson. So what could the Jets possibly want? I don't know. Maybe a guy named Jerry Jeudy. So Jerry Jeudy was a first-round pick in 2019. As we know, we chose Mekhi Becton over Jerry Jeudy, but he was there on the board. Lots of Jets fans wanted him. He was known as the most precise surgical route runner in the entire draft. Now, you'd have to look at it like this. So what if we're going to give the number 10 overall pick for Jerry Jeudy? I don't know. Does that seem like a lot? Does it seem like not enough? Well, again, he was a first-round pick, so it kind of makes sense from that point. He wasn't the 10 overall pick. He was the 15th overall pick, but pish-posh, it's all kind of the same, right? So you got to ask yourself, is Jerry Jeudy worth the 10 overall pick? Well, a lot of Jets fans are really hoping that the New York Jets use that number 10 overall pick on a wide receiver in this year's draft. So then you have to ask yourself, is Jerry Jeudy a better option than the receivers that you could get at 10 overall. Because, look, Jerry Jeudy's young. He's only going into his third year, but you're going to lose 2 years on a rookie contract over taking a wide receiver with that first round pick. You're going to lose 3 years, really. So you have to factor that kind of stuff in. You're losing 2 years on the rookie contract. So that has to be considered. Now, you got to ask yourself another question. If Jerry Jeudy was in this draft class, where would he go? Would he be taken above Garrett Wilson, a Jameson Williams, Traylon Burks, whoever it might be, Drake London? Where would Jerry Jeudy fit into that batch? Well, how could you say that Jerry Jeudy would be taken over all these guys? He was considered a better prospect than the wide receivers in this draft class. It's not really considered a very strong wide receiver draft class. Not that there aren't going to be excellent players in it, of course, but it's not considered a particularly strong draft class. So Jerry Jeudy, he has fallen short of expectations a little bit, but there are reasons for that. You look at the quarterback carousel that's happened over there since he's been there, and that's definitely a part of it. Jerry Jeudy played in 10 games this year, had 38 receptions for 467 yards, a 12.3 yard average, and 0 touchdowns. So if you just look at those numbers, if you just look at the numbers straight up, you think he's a big failure. He got that injury week 1 where he already had like 75 yards on 5 or 6 receptions or something like that. So he was coming out of the gate hot to trot. And then he got the injury, missed a bunch of games, came back and had himself a decent season. But again, look at the quarterback's situation over there in Denver. So you look at his rookie year, he had 52 receptions for 856 yards for a 16.5 yard average. His long was 92 and he had 3 touchdowns. That's his rookie year. That's a damn good rookie campaign. So I think Jerry Jeudy is still the receiver that we hoped he would be coming out. So that's kind of how you would look at it. Is Jerry Jeudy worth our 10th overall pick? Do you like him better than the other wide receivers in the draft class? That's why this would make sense. Now, if you're looking at it with the Packers for Aaron Rodgers, if you're looking at it with, Deshawn Watson, whatever, that's kind of how it breaks down. The specific players you can add and play with all kinds of different options, but that's how it would need to look. Now, maybe in the scenario that I used, maybe Joe Douglas says, well, Jerry Jeudy isn't worth the 10 overall pick, but if you give me Jerry Jeudy and a third, and now we're talking. I'll give you that first round pick, and then you can go ahead and send it to Seattle. If they want Russell Wilson bad enough, they might be willing to do that. And as we know, Joe Douglas doesn't exactly lose trades. So he would definitely be able to maximize and capitalize on the team that really wants to get something done. Joe Douglas is the exact type of general manager you want to squeeze that lemon and really, for lack of a better term, take advantage of their desperate position, So I think it could work in those instances. Now we have to look, how is it realistic in the first place? Well, there's an interesting word in there, and we talk about this one all the time. This is a key word that I want you guys to always focus on. Take a look at the tweet, and it comes right out of the gate. The first actual word in the entire tweet already tells you that this isn't necessarily a solid piece of information. The word is could. So could the Packers. So could the Steelers. The Steelers could be pivotal in a trade, right? What about the Colts? Sure, they could too. What about the Dolphins? Yeah, they could. So you see what I mean? It really doesn't mean anything. That's how they let you know that this isn't, I'm not hearing it from a source. I don't really have any information. I'm just talking right now. The New York Jets and New York Giants could. He's just looking at the situation in the similar fashion that we do. He's looking at a situation. He's saying, this could happen. And it could. He's absolutely right. But whether or not we should attach any real value to it, not so much if you look at that word. Now, Daniel Jeremiah is interesting because he has a little bit more going on where the New York Jets are concerned. As we know, he went to college with Joe Douglas. They played on the Richmond Spiders together, and they're considered pretty good friends. And Daniel Jeremiah is kind of one of the guys that we think might know a little bit more about how Joe Douglas thinks than many of the other draft analysts. But here's what I'd like to ask you. If he is, in fact, buddy with Joe Douglas, do you think that he's going to go out there and show Joe Douglas his hand if he does have any information? Is that really what you think's going on? You think Joe Douglas sat down, had lunch with Daniel Jeremiah, said, hey, man, keep it between us, but I'm thinking that we could be involved in a blockbuster trade for one of these 3 quarterbacks and blah, blah. And Daniel Jeremiah went out there and told everybody? You think that's real? If they are friends, do you think that that would happen? No. If he did do that, I would say they're probably not going to be friends very long because, as we know, Joe Douglas likes to keep everything close to the vest. No one knows what he's thinking. Probably most of the people inside the facility don't even know what he's thinking. His inner circle, you know? So if he is letting Daniel Jeremiah know stuff and he goes out there and says something, that's the end of that. I feel pretty confident in saying that. So if that's not the case, what else could it be? Maybe, just maybe, Daniel Jeremiah is the perfect draft analyst to use, and not in a bad way, kind of in cahoots. Joe Douglas and Daniel Jeremiah, he can give him information to try to set a tone out there which could help the Jets accomplish their goals. So what could that mean? Well, maybe Joe Douglas wants everybody to know that teams are calling and that our 2 first-round picks are, in fact, available. If he makes everybody out there think that teams are calling, wow, they're talking about blockbuster trades. Wait a minute, we were talking with the Packers about Aaron Rodgers. If the Jets give them an extra first, they can outbid us and blah, blah, blah. All this sort of stuff starts going on. It's chess. And that would be the most realistic side of things from my vantage point. So what do you think? You think the Jets are going to be involved in a blockbuster 3-part trade, which is rare in the NFL? I don't even know I don't even recall it ever happening. You can correct me there. I just don't know. I don't remember it. But do you think it's real? What do you think about Daniel Jeremiah and Joe Douglas? Would you like to see Jerry Jeudy? Is that not the guy you want? Give me a trade scenario that you would want. Let me know in the comments. I love talking with you guys, as you already know. And with that all said, have a great night, everybody, and go Jets.